Hi everyone, welcome to episode 6 of elle-TV, thankfully filmed indoors. I just got really tired of the birds and the boats and the people. So this is an experiment, we'll see how it goes. Today's question comes from one of my students who graduated about 2 to 3 years ago, and she asked me this. Professor Lumsden, I finally got my dream job. I worked really hard for it. I had been unemployed for a while beforehand, and so when it finally came, I was really excited to start, and I'm there now. I've only been there for a couple of months, and I hate it. Can I cut and run? How soon can I quit? This is a great question. I understand the pain behind the question, and so I want to take it seriously. And just to say a couple of things. One, I know that beginning any job is difficult. It's a transition, and you have to recognize it as such. You have to recognize that things aren't going to feel comfortable for the first couple weeks or months even, until you get the lay of the land. So how do you get the lay of the land quickly? Because you don't have time to waste time. First, you can and should pick one person in the workplace who is not your supervisor to reach out to pull aside for lunch. You don't have to share. No oversharing. Please don't overshare that you are struggling and that you feel like you just don't fit in. Don't say any of that. Just pull a person aside, feel your way around, and see if you can find one person that you think is perhaps trustworthy, although later I'm going to tell you to trust no one. But pull this person aside, ask them to lunch, and say, you look like you have succeeded here. There's that flattery again. And I would love to learn from you. Are there any tips of working in this particular workplace that you can share with me? Are there suggestions for how I can best contribute to this office? I would love to hear from you. Woohoo! So that's one way that you can kind of ingratiate yourself into the workplace. One, it will show that you are eager to learn. Two, it will help this person like you more, and being liked is more important than you think in a workplace. It is not just about smarts. It is not just about working hard. It is about also making people like you, which we can't teach you in law school. I'm sorry. So that leads to the second part. I had asked her to elaborate a little bit more about what was happening. And she said, I feel like I'm being micromanaged. I feel like people don't like me, and maybe my supervisor doesn't even like me. And I can't blame them because I don't really get along with people that well or that easily. This didn't just start now. I am an introvert, and it's really hard for me to put myself out there, and so I usually prefer to be able to just go in and put my head down and work, and that doesn't seem to be the case. That doesn't seem like something that I can do here, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable, and I just would rather leave. So I will answer that in two parts. The last part, you can always leave. It isn't indentured servitude. You can decide to cut and run. However, one thing that you should think about before you do that is that short stints on a resume, if it's just one, you could say that's a blip. You can explain that away as a blip. But if it's more than one, you have to be prepared for questions where people are going to ask you, well, I noticed you started this job and then it seems like you quit 3 months later, and then you did that again, and then you did that again. And it's going to look inconsistent. It's going to look like you are maybe a flake, and you don't want to come off that way, and you don't want to have to explain yourself later to come up with a story, which you can, but you don't want to have to be able to do it, okay? The other part of her question about being an introvert, not liking people, or at least finding it difficult to relate to people, I can actually relate to that. Many people don't know this, or they don't believe it if I tell them, is that I am really an introvert. If you ask me on any given Saturday what I would prefer to be doing, whether I would rather be out and about in amazing San Francisco, doing wonderful things, hanging out with a bunch of people, or curled up with a book, I will take the book for 100. And it's interesting that people don't believe this about me, but I have a job to do, and my job requires me to be out and about, to be the biggest, best version of myself, to answer student questions, and to appear to love doing it. No, I'm just kidding. I do love doing it. However, it saps a lot of energy from me, and I have to do a lot to recharge afterwards. And so I haven't told many people this, but I actually took a class because I realized that interacting with people well in the workplace is very important. Actually, it's essential to everyone's job survival. So I took a class called Social Fluency. It's essentially a class for introverts, and it was one of the best things that I ever did. Showing up, it made me want to vomit actually before actually showing up, but showing up every week, it was an amazing experience. And they gave us tips and tools for pretending to be that outgoing, super social person, even if you are not, even if you don't always feel it. And what I learned is that you can fake it till you make it. And often you will have to do that in a workplace, even if you are someone who, quote unquote, doesn't like people or who doesn't get along with others. So I encourage you to do whatever you can to stick around for just a little bit longer, because all transitions are difficult, and it just is going to take some time for you to get used to the workplace. And you never know, it could turn out to be the dream job that you always thought that it was. Until next time.